Welcome to Lunchtime Law. Grab your sandwich and let's dive right in here. If you're new here, welcome, first of all, to my channel. I'm Margaret McLean, a former prosecutor, civil trial lawyer, and law professor. And I'm also your courtroom translator. This is where we translate what's actually happening inside an investigation and inside a courtroom as well. Now, today, we're tracking the high-profile Tyler Robinson case out of Utah. He's facing aggravated charges in the fatal assassination style shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. That occurred on September 10th, 2025. And Charlie Kirk would go around to college campuses and debate students on all sorts of controversial topics. I mean, some people, he got political. Some people liked him, some people didn't. But remember, this is all about the law. So in this case, the state is pursuing the death penalty against Tyler Robinson, making the stakes as high as they get. This week, the prosecution kicked off a massive 5-day preliminary hearing. Over 50 exhibits are expected, and you're going to see graphic campus surveillance footage hitting the record. And by the way, a lot of you have been asking me, both on the show and privately, the exact same question over and over. Margaret, why is this a preliminary hearing? It's a national high-profile capital case. Why didn't the prosecution just take this to the grand jury and get an indictment? Well, that, in my opinion, is a great question. And in states like here in Massachusetts, where I was a prosecutor, or New York State, or even in the federal system, a grand jury certainly is the standard way to do it, right? That's what I would do. But, and why would it be the standard preferred method for prosecutors? Because a grand jury proceeding is conducted in private, right? It's secret, without the defense present at all. So you can introduce evidence without any cross-examination. And also, to keep in mind, it's if you want to keep a witness's identity secret longer, this would be the route you'd take. Like, for example, in mob trials, for example, the Whitey Bulger trial that I followed, that's what they did. They took the case, it was federal, they took it before several grand juries, and they wanted to keep, if they wanted to keep somebody's secret for a while. Let's say you had informants are one thing, but let's say you had certain testimony, you didn't want your witness to be offed, then you'd be better off going the route of the grand jury. To get an indictment before a grand jury, as they say, you can indict a ham sandwich, speaking of lunchtime law. Actually, here is your lunchtime law lesson for the day. Utah, where this case is being held, does things quite differently. So let's break down exactly why the state took the preliminary hearing route instead of doing a grand jury indictment. So Utah has, I would say, a grand jury obstacle course. What do I mean by that? Well, under state rules, a prosecutor first must present good cause to a specialized 5-judge panel just to get permission to summon a grand jury. So it creates an extra layer of what I'd call bureaucratic delay. And by contrast, filing what they call a criminal information is the standard and expected procedural track in Utah. It gets the ball rolling immediately, but it also legally triggers the defendant's right to a preliminary hearing. And that's what we are seeing. We saw yesterday and we're seeing today in the Tyler Robinson case. So a multi-day preliminary hearing allows the prosecution to put on their key witnesses, put them on the stand, and it also locks in their testimony under oath. So if any witness's memory fades, or if somebody dies or becomes unavailable by the time the actual trial rolls around, the prosecution can use this week's recorded transcript as admissible evidence at the trial. So I'd say it's like an insurance policy for the state in this case. Now, what's the difference between a preliminary hearing and a trial? At trial, the state must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But at a preliminary hearing like this one, the burden of proof is extraordinarily low. The state only has to show probable cause. What does that mean? Simply, reasonable grounds exist to believe that Robinson committed the crime. The rules of evidence are also much more lenient. Hearsay evidence is allowed to come in, and for example, the balancing of probative and prejudicial evidence is not such a big deal anymore. So, in my opinion, the threshold is so low here, probable cause, that the state's chances of failing to advance this case to trial would be pretty much zero. And by the way, there was a request early on to block cameras in the courtroom, but the judge here allowed them. I guess when you have conspiracy theories out there, and there's quite a few, it's probably best to have cameras in the courtroom. And put down in the comments what you guys think about that. I know it can also create quite a media circus. So let's talk about what actually went down yesterday on day one. And I like to give you a recap. What I do is I go through all the testimony and I pull out what I think are things to talk about, what you should know, and highlights. Otherwise, you're watching this all day and it's very easy to zone out because there's a lot of objections or a lot of timeouts in this particular case. So let's talk about day one. Of course, right away when people came into the courtroom, the tension in the Provo courtroom, I would say, was very, very thick. For the first time, Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow, and his parents and close friend Donald Trump Jr. sat in the front row, face to face with Tyler Robinson. And let me put a little bit of I don't have the actual them sitting in the front row, but I do have a bit of a slideshow here. I'm going to put this on and there's Charlie Kirk delivering one of his addresses, and that's his pretty wife, Erica. And of course, he was also a father as well. So it's always sad to see somebody so young, emmed. His life is over now, which is sad, no matter which side of the political spectrum you may be on. So in this case, this is interesting. Neither the state nor the defense started with an opening statement at all. So that's a big difference. Instead, the prosecution got right up and began laying out its roadmap of the case. And Chief Deputy Utah County Attorney Chad Gurander began by informing Judge Tony Graff that the state planned to call 4 law enforcement witnesses and introduce 40 to 50 evidentiary exhibits. That's quite a bit. So the defense team's lead attorney is Catherine Nestor. And it'll be interesting to see what her strategy will be. I'm sure they'll be, obviously looking to poke holes in the prosecution's case to create reasonable doubt. And at this stage, cross-examination is likely, in my opinion, exploratory. So they'll be looking to define the weaknesses in the prosecution's case and determining what would be the best way to attack the prosecution's case later on before a jury. Let's see what else I have here for my slides. I've got Charlie Kirk again, and I'll get back to that one. But again, here's the defendant, Tyler Robinson, and very young defendant. I believe he's only 12, or he's around 22 years old, which so young to be standing trial. Um, let's see. So the first witness was the former Utah Valley University police officer, Christopher Bagley. He takes the stand. And as a prosecutor, when I was trying cases, I would often start with a witness who can really set the stage and lay out the scene. So this guy was here from the very beginning and basically saw everything going down. I mean, he could describe where Charlie Kirk was, where the audience was, and of course, the layout of the campus, the buildings, and exactly where the crime occurred, which is kind of unusual. So why not start with him? I thought he was a very decent witness. He also testified about diagrams and photographs, and he talked about a holster that they found and how they cleared the area knowing it was a crime scene. He testified also that he heard the shots, and right after he heard the shots, the big crowd of thousands of people, they scattered and they were screaming. And I will play some of the testimony here because he does play quite a big role in this entire investigation. He originally they thought they had a different guy, but this campus police officer realized that they had the wrong guy. So I want to, before we get into his testimony, I'm going to play some key areas of it. I want to talk about who this wrong guy was and, talk about false confessions, because I talked about that yesterday on my Lunchtime Law show in regard to Nancy Guthrie and the Lindbergh kidnapping case. I went into a little bit of detail why people would falsely confess to a crime. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you just say, hey, I did it? Well, there's also all sorts of psychological reasons. And in this case, we have the guy right here. Put him up. This is the guy who falsely confessed. And let's see. Immediately after Charlie Kirk was killed, this man, right, he's an old guy, kind of, George Zinn approached a detective and began screaming, I shot him, now shoot me. So Zinn was immediately detained, of course, and restrained by police officers. And that video went viral online. I remember watching it. So many people initially believed that this guy was the killer, but police quickly determined that Zinn was unarmed and uninvolved. He later admitted to investigators that he fabricated the confession to intentionally derail the investigation, draw people away from the shooter, away from somebody who was trying to escape, give him time to escape. So this guy's actions, it amounted to a felony because he disrupted the initial police response on January 29th. In September. So he really disrupted a major police investigation. So of course they're going to arrest him, and of course they're going to charge him with that. So on January 29th, 2026, Zinn pleaded to a felony charge of obstruction of justice. And this is also interesting, of course, during that investigation into his false confession, authorities also discovered child sexual abuse material on his phone, and he was sentenced to up to 15 years in prison for the combined charges. Again, another false confession. So what I want to do is I want to play for you a little bit of the testimony that I thought was key. And of course, it goes on for a long time. So let's turn to that. And I will take this down and put this on stage. And this is from yesterday's hearing. Let's see what we have here. So I believe this is the part where Bagley lays the scene out, which is, again, is really important for a first witness. Let me get to it here.
Okay. Can you describe what you were seeing? What did you observe?
On that day, I observed Charlie going back, doing some meet and greet with some people, getting some photos taken. He then came underneath the hall flags and went to his tent, and he was there answering questions and talking to individuals that would ask him questions.
The tent you're referring to, is that the tent that we see when it was set up in the courtyard?
Yeah, that white square tent.
The white top?
Yes, he was under that.
Fast forward to about 12:20 or so a little bit after noon, the noon hour. What happened? What did you see? What did you hear?
I heard an individual talking to Charlie, and I happened to kind of glance over the edge of the railing about that time. I could see the right side of Charlie's shoulder, so not his whole body, because he was underneath the tent, so I could only see probably the right side of his body. He was answering a question, kid asking him a question, and then I heard a shot fired.
Do you know what time that was?
Yes.
What time was that?
12:23.
What did you see?
At that moment, I saw him lean to the left. So
when you say him, you see
Charlie.
Charlie.
So I saw him go to the left because I could no longer see the right side of his body. So he went further underneath the tent to the north side of the tent, so left. Okay.
Can you describe the reaction of others that were there?
Yeah. So then everybody started getting up and starting to run, and more of a chaos kind of situation.
Before you continue, can you describe a little bit? So you mentioned Mr. Kirk was answering questions, talking to individuals.
Yes.
Were there others present?
Yes.
Any idea about approximately how many? How would you describe it in your terms?
In my terms, I'd say when I was up there looking down, I'd say there's several thousand people, because you had it on the grass. It was jam-packed in the amphitheater, sitting on the grass. You had people standing on the back up along the cement. You had people that were on the second level, the Sorensen, and over by the Woodbury building. There's another level there where a lot of people were standing and watching. So it was pretty packed. Okay. Several thousand people. You mentioned you heard something. What did you hear again? I heard a gunshot. Okay. And can you describe you described Mr. Kirk's reaction? Was that simultaneous to hearing the gunshot? Yes, it was. When he fell to the left? Yes. Did you see the reaction from the crowd? Yes. What was that? Everybody kind of got up. They all said, a lot of people were screaming, standing up, and starting to run in all different directions away from the center of the tent. Okay. You're a police officer helping to secure the area, correct? Yes. What did you do? At that moment, I recognized it as gunfire. I left my post, which was right there on the south end of the hall flags. I proceeded to between right where the fugal and the hall flags meet. There's some outside stairs that I was starting to run down. As I was trying to get down to the bottom of the stairs, people were running up, people were laying down on the steps. I'm trying to jump over people to get to the bottom of the stairs so I can help stop an individual that's probably shooting. What happened next? By the time I got to the bottom of the stairs, I was informed on the radio that we had a shooter in custody. So I thought at that moment, I was like, oh, that was kind of fast. Obviously, it was close range probably because we had an individual in custody. Another officer came on, so we had an individual in custody. So I decided to, since the threat is gone, now I can assess for anybody that's injured and start looking for any medical needs that's needed at that moment. I started canvassing the area. As I canvassed the area, I was looking for anybody that was injured. I saw a kid on the ground that was on about the second or third tier in the grass next to a wheelchair, and he was almost convulsing. I thought he'd maybe been shot. Talked to the dad as I was running over there. He said that he was just having a seizure, that he was fine, he was not injured. So then at that moment, I observed that there was no other injuries that I could see at that moment. Okay. Was your attention drawn to anything else at that time? Yeah. So after we got some people kind of cleared away a little bit, I thought I needed to start preserving the scene because we had a crime scene. And with some of my experience and training to that effect I decided now we need to contain the scene and help preserve as much evidence as we can. So I started pushing people off the grass, out of the courtyard area because I knew that's where the crime scene was. So as we started pushing those guys out, my Chief Long, that was right next to me, I looked down and saw an empty pistol holder that was sitting just on top of the grass. And at that moment, things had died down just a split second. I realized that the shot I heard was more of a rifle shot and not a pistol shot. And what causes you to say that? Just from being around firearms through all my trainings, the difference is, a handgun is more of a short bang pop sound. With a rifle, you have more of a longer, violent bang or crackle sound. It's more of a violent kind of sound that's longer. So that's why I recognize it. Okay. Is a rifle sound louder typically? Yes. Okay. Going back to when you heard this gunshot, could you tell where it came from? Direction? Yes, I knew it came from the east of me. From the east of you. Okay.
So you see this realization comes to your mind. What did you do next?
At that moment, when I saw the holster, the empty holster, I turned to my chief and I said, that was a rifle shot. And he said, I agree. And I looked up at that moment, right in the line of sight, I could see the Losi building had a direct line of sight. So I proceeded to go look at that and see what was going on up there.
Okay. Can you just briefly describe your route to the Losi Center?
So from the courtyard, you can go into the Sorensen Center. And like I said there earlier, there was on level 1, there's some elevators or there's stairs. I ran up 4 flights of stairs, got to the 4th level of the Losi building and proceeded to the south of the Losi building. There's some stairs, which is at breezeway between the computer science building and the Losi building. There's some stairs that go up to the top of that. And so I went to the top of that.
Is that stairway that you previously described?
Yes, on the outside of the Losi building.
Okay. It's a public stairway.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you make it to the rooftop?
I did.
Do you know about what time you got there?
I got there at 12:44.
Okay. What did you do when you got on top?
When I got on top, I hopped over the guardrail. I noticed that there was an object which was sitting right about 10 or 15 feet in from the other side of the guardrail in the gravel. That looked out of place to me.
And in relationship to where you hopped over the guardrail, what direction was that object?
To the west of the guardrail.
Okay. And did you recognize the object?
I did.
And what was it?
It was a red and black screwdriver.
Okay. Did you touch that object?
I did not.
Okay. I am going to refer the witness on your screen, Officer Baggerly, to State's Exhibit 3.1. Let me know when you see that.
Yes, I see it.
Do you recognize what that is?
I do.
And what is that?
That's a picture of the screwdriver that I saw that day on top of the rooftop of the Losi building.
Okay. And that's how it appeared on the roof that day?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate portrayal of the screwdriver you observed and found that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state offers State's Exhibit 3.1.
Ms. Nestor?
Your Honor, we renew, we renew our standing objection and object on the grounds that there's no foundation laid as to when the photo was taken or by whom. Thank you.
Same response, Judge. My previous arguments.
And did you state that this was a fair and accurate representation as of September 10th, 2025?
I had said that day. I'll ask it again.
All right.
To the officer. Officer Baggerly, you saw this screwdriver you're describing on September 10th, 2025. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is State's Exhibit 3.1 a fair and accurate depiction of that screwdriver that day, September 10th, 2025?
Yes.
All right.
Supposed to admit.
I will go ahead and admit State's Exhibit 3.1 is admitted based off of first-hand knowledge of this, what this image purports to be, and it is a fair and accurate representation as this item on that date of September 10th.
So again, I want to explain that the rules of evidence are lax here. It's a preliminary hearing, but the defense attorney is spending a lot of time objecting. I think it's a little bit of overkill, quite frankly. It's making it go much, much longer. But hearsay is generally admitted here, and I'm surprised that she's doing this much objecting, quite frankly. But I'll keep playing.
At the 2025, and this exhibit may be published.
Your Honor, before we continue to publish it and ask a few more questions, right now might be a good time to take a break.
All right.
If that's okay.
Okay, so they took a break, so I'm going to zoom forward and get to the next part that I think is significant. And 1 second, it's at 2:56. Okay.
What he wasn't where the
you
holster was up on the top level up there, and it was where when the incident happened when Charlie got shot.
This is cross-examination, and I zoomed too far. So actually where I want to really go is 233. Sorry about that. 233, because I thought it was interesting where they talked about the sniper pad, or he described that. And the sniper pad that he's describing is up on the roof of the building in the gravel. So that's why he described, well, this was somebody who was using a rifle to, with a line of sight to Charlie Kirk. So that is right here.
And what were those instructions?
I advised her not to let anybody inside the crime scene
Okay.
without being a police officer or an investigator.
Okay. Thank you. You can take your seat again. Officer, upon seeing this disturbance in the gravel, you described what it looked like to you.
Yes.
Someone lying down in a prone position, correct?
Yes.
What did you do next?
So when I got to the top of the Losi building during that day, I noticed a screwdriver, kept going to the edge, found that prone position. At that moment, I realized, because it was a direct line of sight, plus the disturbance in the gravel, where I could see somebody laid down in a prone position or a sniper position, and asked dispatch to get on the then I realized that we probably didn't have our shooter in custody. From that moment, I asked dispatch to get on the camera system and to see if anybody was on top of the Losi building during the time of the incident.
Were you advised of anything?
I was. Dispatch came back and advised me that there was a male individual on top of the roof that was there at the time of the shooting.
Did they describe what his movements were?
They did. They stated that he ran to the edge, dropped down, crawled, got in a prone position.
I'm going to stop you right there. Ran to the edge. What direction and what edge?
Running west and southwest of the Losi building. So ran towards the tent where Charlie Kirk was, so they could get a line of sight. And then the individual stood up after the shooting and ran northeast on top of the Losi building.
Okay. You mentioned that this individual on the video dropped off the edge. Did you get that?
I haven't mentioned that.
Oh, what happened? What else was described to you?
Then, well, at that moment, so I knew that there was possibly a shooter on the run.
Your Honor, can we just have a continuing objection to all of the hearsay that's being testified to here?
And Judge, my response to that was I'm not actually offering this for the truth of the matter asserted at this point, simply for the effect on the hearer. So I'm not offering what's been described in the video as substantive evidence.
All right, Ms. Nestor, with that clarification, any thoughts?
I'll just stand on the objection. I don't think, I mean, he's clearly offering it for the truth because he's asking him to describe the route of the individual, and it's based on what other people told him. So if he wants to circle back to it after he's put the video in, I mean, we could do that. But right now, I still think it's inappropriate hearsay, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further, Mr. Hernandez?
I'll submit it to the court.
All right. So as the magistrate, as this is not to a jury, it's to myself as a magistrate, I am not accepting that statement for the truth of the matter asserted, simply for what has been stated. So I'm specifically making that finding as I'm receiving this evidence, and I'm not accepting it for the truth of the matter asserted, only as represented by Mr. Grunander. And with that, the objection is overruled. Mr. Grunander, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. So you mentioned you were provided with information that an individual was running north on the Losi rooftop, correct?
Yes.
What else was described to you?
At that moment, I knew I had responding units coming into the scene. I advised other officers that I needed the Losi building secured, searched, because I didn't know exactly what way other than he ran north. At that moment, I went down to the police department, which is just down the stairwell, and looked at the video myself. And
Where is the police department located?
it's in the Gunther Trade Building, just directly to the south of the Losi building.
Okay.
So where I described those outside stairs, the building to the left of that or south would be the Gunther Trade Building.
Okay. On what level is the police department?
It's level 3.
Level 3. Okay. Upon arriving at the police department, what did you do next then?
I then look at the footage to verify for myself exactly what expired on that moment, where I could see an individual run to the edge, get up, and then run off, and then drop off the northeast side of the building, of the Losi building.
Okay. Having viewed that, what did you do next?
At that moment, I realized I had more crimes, a bigger crime scene that I needed to contain and preserve for evidence. At that moment, I went and grabbed some more crime scene tape, and I responded to the northeast side of the building and secured an area where I saw impressions of the shoe print inside the grass, and also up above on that northeast side of the building, I could see on the cement where someone had scuffed there and then dropped down to the shoe imprint and then finished going northeast.
Okay. If I can take the witness back to State's Exhibit 2. You mentioned seeing an individual drop down. Could you come down and point that area out to the court?
Yes. Okay, this is the Losi building again on the top right center of the photo. Southwest side is where the individual was laying down prone in the line of sight, came behind the aquarium or atrium, came behind that on the west side of it, came up to the north side of the Losi building on the east on this white square piece on the far right of the picture. And then he dropped off on the east side of the Losi building into the grass down here below.
So the northeast corner.
Yes, northeast corner.
You mentioned you observed something on the grass.
I did. I saw a shoe imprint that was embedded pretty deep right there next to where he dropped off.
And this is all footage that you personally observed on the
Yes.
surveillance video.
Yes.
Okay. When you got to the scene, describe in as best detail as you can what you saw on the grass then.
So when I got to the scene, I could see that there was a shoe imprint there. When I looked up onto the cement from the roof, I could see some scratching or rub marks from the top of the roof that was not there. So I could see that looked abnormal. I then decided to put crime scene tape around the whole area in case there was more evidence that needed to be preserved.
On that exhibit number 2, do you see where you placed the crime scene tape?
Yes, I do.
And where is that? Can you describe that to the court?
It's going to be on the far right in the center of the picture. You can see the yellow tape. I came around trees, came up further out of pictures, some more trees. I came down all the way down to the back side of the LDS Institute building where there's a sidewalk to block everybody out of coming up that way.
Okay. Did you at one point leave the scene?
I did.
Did you release the scene to anyone?
Yes, I did.
And who was that?
There was 2 Payson police officers that were standing there.
Okay. Were they in uniform?
They were.
Did you provide them with any instructions?
I advised them not to let anybody inside the crime scene other than law enforcement or investigators.
Okay. You can take your seat again, Officer Bagley. You've talked about the disturbance in the gravel that was observed on the Losi building.
Yes.
Did you walk through that disturbance in the gravel?
I did not.
Did you otherwise touch it in any way?
No.
With respect to the shoe print that you observed on the grass on the northeast lawn area below the Losi building, did you walk through that?
I did not.
Did you otherwise disturb that?
No.
Officer Bagley, what did you do next?
From that moment, I then released the scene. I went down to the Fugal building and knew that where the incident command center was at, so I could relay information that I'd found to responding units and people in charge.
If I can have just a moment, Judge.
You may.
Okay, I'm going to stop here for a minute because, that's pretty much the direct testimony. And next we have cross-examination by defense attorney Catherine Nestor. And she overall focused on cross-examining the state's witnesses and lodging a lot of objections I didn't even play all the objections. That was earlier on. But she objects to hearsay. She objects to crime scene exhibits. And I'd say that she also leans into descriptions of the aftermath as organized chaos, right? Which, highlighting that radio traffic showed police initially captured a completely different guy, George Zinn, which I talked about, arguing that the early investigation was chaotic and prone to error. She poked holes in how law enforcement linked Robinson to the scene on the day of the shooting. She also pressed Bagley here on whether any immediate physical evidence or initial on-campus observations pointed directly to Robinson. And under those types of questions, he was pretty honest, and he conceded that nothing found on campus that they explicitly identified who the shooter was. If you recall, ultimately, he talked to his parents, and and a pastor, and they convinced him to turn himself in later. But there was a while when they just didn't know who this guy was. So I want to highlight a little bit of the cross-examination here so that you can see sort of, this woman's style. And remember, I think this is practice for the real trial and when she's in front of a real jury, so she can see what works, what doesn't work, and how different holes can be poked in the case. Because this this thing is going to go forward to trial ultimately, unless there's some plea deal, because we do have the death penalty on the table. Maybe they'll agree to take the death penalty off the table. I'm not sure. So let's see if we can get to, so here's some of the cross-examination, which I brought you to before, and you can check out her style.
What he wasn't aware of, the holster was up on the top level up there, and it was where when the incident happened, when Charlie got shot, within seconds, the other officer that was down by him said that he was in custody with the prisoner of the shooter. So within right there.
You didn't, at that time, it was your understanding the person they took into custody was close by Mr. Kirk. Is that right?
Yep.
But it didn't occur to you that, well, that's not where I heard the shot come from. They must have the wrong person. I should talk to somebody.
During the chaos moment, no. That they said they had a person in custody. I figured those guys saw something I didn't see. They took the person in custody, and I thought that was him.
Okay. This would be a good stopping place because I'm about to start another section.
Okay.
So maybe we could go 5 minutes early for lunch.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, let me take it for
Thank you, officer.
Hold on.
We're going to go ahead and break for lunch.
Forgot about the lunch break here. All right. So, boy. Here we go. So I'm just going to play a little bit of it so you can see, what her style is.
That you went down to the tent. So let me ask you about that. So what did you do when you got down to the tent?
When I got down the tent, Charlie was gone. They put him in an SUV and left. At that moment, there were still some people running around. So I decided to preserve the scene as much as I could with trying to escort people out. And that's why I went back in and started pushing people off the grass area to conserve any ammunition or any casings or anything to that effect that would be around. I wanted to make sure people were off and there was as much evidence preserved as possible.
So just to be clear, by the time you got to the tent, Mr. Kirk had already been removed and taken from the scene. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So in your professional opinion, what was the perimeter of the crime scene?
What do you mean by the perimeter? So,
the perimeter, like how far did this crime scene stretch? Like where did you want people to move off of?
well, at first I wanted them all off the grass because, like I said, I thought we had a suspect in custody. So to me, it would be a close encounter. So I was trying to push everybody off the grass in case there were shell casings or to that effect that got on the grass. So after I pushed them off to that part and getting up to the top where I saw that empty holster, when I saw that empty holster is when things started slowing down for me a little bit. All the chaos and stuff that's when I realized that it was a rifle shot, not a handgun shot.
Okay. And that's when you saw the low-C building and it occurred to you should go check it out.
Yes, it was right in my line of sight.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole time that this is going on, you had an active body camera on your, I guess your collar, is that right?
I was right on my
Your
chest. Yes.
Okay. And it was on.
Yes.
And it appears to me from reviewing your body camera that there was another individual who was with you that went to the low-C building who was in civilian clothing but appeared to have a gun. Who was that?
I don't know who he was exactly. He had a badge on, and I had somebody with me to back me up as I ran up the stairs to make sure I had somebody with me.
So you don't know what agency he's from or where he's from?
No.
And he looked like he had a pistol.
Yes.
Is that right?
A handgun, yes.
Or a handgun.
Yeah.
And so the two of you go to the low-C building.
Yes.
When you reviewed the videotape at the police department later, did you check to see if anyone had been on the low-C building after the shooting, after this individual had jumped off that you've already talked about? Was there anybody else on the roof? Did you check and see in that gap of time?
In that gap of time, no. So once I put up the barrier, I only walked up to about that point. Then I went down and reviewed the video from that moment on.
So are you able to say for one way or the other if anyone else had been on that roof in between when the person jumped off the building and when you came on the roof? Are you able to say one way or the other?
There was people up there looking for an individual that ran that way because when I first got told the individual ran heading north, we didn't know where the shooter was. So we started climbing up and looking, clearing the building. And then it wasn't until I went to the PD and actually saw him jump off of the building that I knew he was off the building.
Let me rephrase that because I think I either asked it badly or you misunderstood me. So let me go back again. So from the time that the individual that you spotted on the video jumped off the roof, right? The individual that you thought was in the prone position.
Okay.
Between that and when you got on the roof, did you ever check to see if anybody else had been on the roof in that period of time?
Yeah, and I didn't see anybody.
So you
I
did
didn't
watch?
notice anybody. Yeah.
You didn't, did you look on the video to see that entire, okay, that's what I'm asking. So you did not review the video to see if there was someone between you, that individual jumping off and you coming on, if anybody had been on or disturbed that scene in any way. Okay. But once you put the tape up, then we're confident from that point on the scene was preserved, right? By the way, where did you get that tape?
Officers responded on the scene that he was down on the bottom and threw it up to me. So,
Okay. So you didn't have it on you?
no,
And you didn't leave the scene to go get it?
no,
Someone threw it up?
yes.
Great.
Excuse me.
All right. While you were on the roof, did you encounter any spent casings?
As a matter of fact, no, that's why when I saw the prone position where the person would be laying down as a sniper, being around guns and snipers all the time, I was looking for a spent shell casing. I couldn't see one. I was looking over the edge, looking all over the place, making sure the gravel wasn't disturbed, and I couldn't find a shell casing at that moment.
And that would be, the reason you would be looking for that was because some types of guns, when they shoot, eject a casing automatically, right? Some
Yes.
do, some don't.
Yes,
All right. And then you also didn't find any unshot bullets.
no,
Okay. Are you aware of there being a bullet found on another roof
I'm not. aware.
vicinity? Were you aware of another bullet being found on the scene, not on the roof of the Losi building?
No,
All right, your body cam footage that I reviewed appears to end while you're still on the roof. Do you know why that is?
I think the battery went dead. It was just right at that moment.
Okay. And do you know, did you ever turn it back on that day or go get it I don't know, what do you have to do? Charge it or stick a new battery in it? I don't even know.
Usually dock it, but no, I didn't go back. It was too chaotic running around.
So that 27-minute and 35-second body cam that starts when you're at the Hall of Flags and ends while you're still on the roof, but haven't put the crime tape up yet, that's the only body cam you have that day?
Yes,
Right. You mentioned when you went to the police department, you watched the video where you saw an individual up on the roof,
Yes.
right? And that individual was in the vicinity where you saw the disturbance in the gravel.
yes,
And when you looked at that video, were you able to identify the individual's face?
I know.
Were you able to identify any markings on their clothing?
I know.
Were you able to identify their height?
No.
When we looked at the picture of I think you called it the sniper perch, somebody use your words. It looked like there was a measuring tape laid out next to it. Were you present when they measured like the distance, like how tall that person would have been?
I was not.
So you don't know what that is?
I don't.
Were you able to tell the person's weight from the video that you saw?
I can tell he wasn't heavy set. So
Okay.
I'm more of a skinnier person.
Could you identify what shoes they were wearing?
I could not.
Could you identify anything about a hat or what was on their head?
At the moment, no, I couldn't.
And did you see a gun in the video?
I saw a long black object in the left hand as he was running across the roof.
And in fact, did you describe that in your report as a bag?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know why.
All right, let's pull that report back up, please. Never mind. I don't think you mentioned what you saw. So in your report, pull that back up, please. Page 5 on the Bagley one. So looking at the second page, you're actually going to have to go to page 6, I think. You talk about what you saw in the video where they jumped off the roof. And again, I'm going to remind you of our conversation we had before about you understand how important these reports are.
Yep.
And do you mention anywhere in this report that you saw a gun?
I did not. I just had an object.
Did you mention that you saw that object? Is that on here?
Nope.
Okay, so you left that out. Now, have you looked at that over and over again?
The video? No,
Yeah.
I've only seen it like twice.
Oh, really?
Yep.
When's the last time you saw it?
It's been months.
Okay. The last time you saw it, were you able to tell what that object was in his hand?
Yes.
Now-
Not tell what it is. I can see there's an object in that left hand. Yes.
And could you, knowing what you know about the case today, do you have an idea about what that object was?
It looks like a rifle or something to that effect. A long object,
It looks like a rifle.
like a long object, like skinny and long. You can see it's like almost like it's covered over something.
So you saw the cover, which was the towel, right?
Yes, and the shape of it is long.
Okay.
You know,
So you can see a towel, but you can't see an actual
I don't know if it
gun.
was a towel or a blanket. I don't know what it was.
But you can't see an actual gun.
No,
Video.
like an object, like a form of a gun, like a long object.
Okay. All right. At the end of that day, what time did you leave the campus?
I was probably like 9 o'clock that night, maybe somewhere around there.
And did you come back the next morning and work some more?
I came back the next morning, yes.
And you worked all day the next day?
On and off.
When you left at 9 p.m., did you or anyone else know who the shooter was on that day?
I know. Not that I know of.
And when you came back the next morning and worked that afternoon, all that day, did you or anybody on that campus know who the shooter was?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So nothing that you found that day or anyone else to your knowledge on campus was able to identify who the shooter was?
That day, no. Well, during the time I was there, no. I didn't know.
I also want to talk to you about that giant picture that was showed to you. Do you know?
Exhibit 35, I think.
Yes, it's Exhibit 35. Do you know who took that picture, where it came from?
I do not.
Do you know how old it is?
I have no idea.
Okay. And the pictures you were shown, Exhibits 1, 2, and 3, that you got up and kind of talked about and showed all the buildings and everything. Do you have any knowledge about where those pictures came from? Or
I
who
guess
took
they were
them?
drone footages taken from a drone.
Do you know who was operating the drone? Like
Sergeant Cam Nielsen from Provo Police Department.
Provo Police Department. Have you seen those pictures before today?
Before today, yes.
When did you see them?
A couple weeks ago.
And then that was just in preparation for testifying?
Yes.
Prior to that, had you ever seen those pictures? Can I have the court's indulgence for just a moment, Your Honor?
You may, Ms.
Just hold on.
Okay, I think I'm going to, stop this section of cross-examination right here. And thank you, Julia, for your insight here. I think that's great. I didn't follow Corey Richens, so I didn't know she was part of the defense team there. Overall, I actually think this witness did a great job. He's a campus cop, and he's listening carefully to the questions. He's responding honestly, in my opinion. And, if he doesn't know something, he'll say, hey, I didn't know, or that this is what happened. I don't know about that. And yeah, but, she did score some points. Like I put in my notes here about him not having a body cam on, and he couldn't identify her client at the time. And of course, we know that Robinson wasn't identified at the time. And how can you really identify somebody who's running across a roof and all of that? So, and he was disguised. Next, after this, the state called DPS agent David Hall to establish a timeline. Remember, I like those all-important timelines. So Hall testified that he reviewed hours of footage, hours of it showing a man identified as Robinson coming and going from the campus about 4 times around the time of the shooting. I believe he also talked about how Robinson cased the area out. And of course he would. If he's looking for the best line of sight, he knew where Charlie was sitting. So this had to be premeditated and pre-planned. And I think that's the whole point of his testimony. So what can we expect going forward today, which is day 2, of course? I would expect the prosecution to turn up the heat, of course. Agent David Hall will be back in the stand. The prosecution will submit the unedited versions of the campus videos to get them into evidence, because there was a little bit of a problem with that yesterday. Also, the state is expected to introduce a recorded interview with Robinson's former roommate and romantic partner, Lance Twiggs. And this will go to motive, because Charlie Kirk had certain views on transgender people, and I believe Twiggs was transforming at the time. So it goes to motive. Twiggs is not testifying at this hearing, but they'll use his taped prior recorded statement to introduce what I'd call a chilling note. that Robinson left behind for his roommate. The note reportedly, it reads, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." So we can also expect to hear about further texts between Robinson and his lover, his boyfriend, Twigs, going on about how Robinson is sick of Kurt's hatred. So again, it goes to motive. Later today or tomorrow, the state will start introducing the heavy science. We are talking about DNA evidence that prosecutors claim directly links Robinson to the recovery of the suspected murder weapon. I don't know if you just heard my stomach growled. Of course, it's lunchtime law, and I haven't eaten lunch yet. Overall, I would say this preliminary hearing gives Utah prosecutors a massive strategic playbook, and we are seeing it play out step by step right here. I'll be recapping this event daily in my lunchtime law and providing you with my legal analysis. Of course, I'm going to try to pick out those highlighted areas where I think are the best to show you guys, and then I'll talk about it. So I really do put time into watching this myself and then picking out those juicy nuggets. And by the way, when I was looking at myself just now and listening to the testimony, if you notice my scale on my scales of justice, the little scales are not there. That's because one of my cats decided to play with it, and I've got to find it. And I think the scales of justice might be broken. So we have a lot the scales of justice are broken, but I'm going to try to fix that. Again, I'm Margaret McLean. Enjoy the rest of your lunch, and I will see you right here tomorrow on Lunchtime Law. And I appreciate everybody coming. I know I'm not as big as some of the others, but I do think I have good content. And again, I'm a law professor. I was, and I really do want to teach you something. So again, thank you, Julia, for all of your great comments. I appreciate that. And I will see you tomorrow at Lunchtime Law. And again,